Hey everyone, it's your girl Desiree, and I am back with another topic. Hope y'all can hear me. I've talked about low body count and all that in the past, but it's been a while, and I think that is something that I felt led to bring up again because it's a constant conversation. When you think about it, it's kind of elementary because we should be kind of thinking a little higher when it comes to things. But I think that we have to sometimes start at the basics because it allows us to see how we think and why we make the decisions that we make. So I think it's very important. I wanted to talk about the wrong reasons why women tend to want to have a low body count. And you hear some women talking about it. Um, they'll brag about how they have a low body count and how they can count on one hand how many men they've been with and so forth and so forth. And women have a right to be proud of that because if that's something that they feel like is important to them, then I'm not saying they can't do that. But many times, if we're honest, many women are not choosing to have low body counts for the right reasons. And they're also not bringing it up for the right reasons either. So I kind of wanted to talk about that. And I think this is important, especially for younger women or even teenage girls who have never been intimate before, or maybe they've just started, just to be cognizant of why you're making the decisions that you're making. So one of the wrong reasons why women tend to want to have a low body count is so that because they think that it will make men respect them. They think that men will automatically see them in on a put them on a pedestal. Men will automatically uh, cherish them and adore them when we see that that's obviously not the case. We see so many examples, whether it be in our personal lives with people that we know, maybe our own personal experiences. We read so many stories. We listen to so many women's stories online. We watch the news. There's so many examples. Look at so many cultures where being a virgin is actually required for a woman to get married. And look at how those women are treated in those countries. They're treated horribly. They're not even treated like human beings. Some women in certain places, like Afghanistan, for example, they're not even allowed to go to school, drive, sing, all types of things that we tend to take for granted here in America. And don't get me wrong, there are still issues here in America when it comes to women and how women are treated, how women are perceived, how women are handled. But we are grateful to have some of the rights and the freedoms that we have here because I can't imagine what it's like to live in some of these other countries. I remember me and my childhood friend would talk about that sometimes, even when we were teenagers growing up, maybe even younger, because me and her would always have these deep conversations. I'm a sucker for deep conversations. And we would say, yes, there's a lot of things that still needs to change when it comes to women and Western countries. However, we're grateful to be here because, like I said, we have certain freedoms that sometimes we don't even really understand until we start to study how women are treated in other countries. Even to this day, even in 2026, many, many years later now, looking back, I was having that conversation when I was young. And now that I'm older, it's still a problem around the world that women are not being treated with respect. So you having a low body count is not going to guarantee a man is going to respect you because clearly we see that that's not the case as a collective. Of course, there may be, few cases here and there where a man will be glad that a woman is maybe a virgin or that she's only been one or two people and he may really like that and really be excited about that. But for the most part, that's not really how men work. They just kind of want to be the first person to be able to say that they've had you, or they want to be able to say that they have a woman that a lot of other men have not had. It's really just an ego thing. It's really just an ownership thing. It's really not about respect. Because if it was about respect, like I said, then it wouldn't be so many examples of women who have low body counts, or even women who are virgins who are treated horribly by men, who have been abused by men, whose lives have been taken by men. Like I said, in so many countries, women don't even have any basic human rights, and these women are virgins and they have quote unquote low body counts, and look at how they're treated. They're not even treated like human beings. So clearly there are so many examples here and abroad that just because you have a low body count doesn't mean a man is going to respect you. I've seen stories of women marrying their high school sweethearts and the men cheat on them, disrespect them. Now this woman has given 20 years of her life, 25 years of her life to this man, and she didn't have a high body count. That was the only man she's ever been with, and look at how she was treated in the marriage. And sometimes it's very sad because some women, especially the older women who have saved themselves for marriage for these men and given 25, 30 years of their lives, and the man just moves on with somebody else, these women have to sometimes start over, especially women from other generations, because a lot of times they didn't, maybe they, nowadays it's a little different. Women are thinking different. Like, I got to make sure I work and have money just in case he leaves. But back in the days, maybe they didn't work, or maybe they didn't have an opportunity to work. They probably didn't think about it. It depends on how old the woman is. And she basically put her whole life on the line and put her whole goals and dreams on the back burner to allow a man to be able to pursue his dreams and his goals and aspirations, just for her to get left and discarded like she was nothing. And now she has to start all over again. And then when she's bitter and angry about it, people are just looking at her like she's just crazy, when she just literally just uprooted her whole life for this man who treated her like she wasn't even important. Meanwhile, this woman has only been with him. That was her high school sweetheart. You know what I mean? Or maybe she met him in college and she had never been with anybody else. So there's so many examples to show that just because a woman has a low body count, that doesn't mean a man is going to automatically respect her. Another reason, a wrong reason, is they think that men will marry them. So women think that because they have a low body count, they're more marriage material, because that's what men say, right? Men say these things. Oh, we respect women more if they have a low body count. We don't respect you if you have a high body count because you're ran through, you're damaged goods. We don't respect you. You're just for recreational use. So this is the things that men say. And now with the internet and all these podcasts, people, they are, reiterating all of this and all of this rhetoric, and it's all over the internet now. So women believe it. They believe everything that they hear men say. Oh, the men are saying that they don't respect women who have high body count, so therefore I'm going to have a low body count so they can respect me. Men are saying that women who have low body counts are going to get married and the other ones are not because we don't respect them. So I'm going to keep a low body count so I can get married. Women still overwhelmingly want to get married. That's changing. It's not what it used to be, but women still want to get married. And the reason why I know that is because when you're a woman like myself who's not married, that's one of the things that women keep asking you. Oh, when is this guy going to marry you? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Oh, girl, you should have kids. Oh, girl, you should get married. Even in 2026, people are still trying to pressure you to get married. You know what I mean? Which I find interesting because they're never like really asking you, are you in a healthy relationship? Are you safe? Are you doing the internal work? Do you even want to get married? Right? Like it's like they keep pushing it on you. And I get it. Women also sometimes mean well. They don't want you to waste your time with a man. I get it. Sometimes it's not always a negative thing, but it just shows that women on average still want to be coupled with men. And so they are going to try to do what they can, what they think is going to get them picked. And men are saying, oh, if you have a low body count and you're not ran through, then you're more marriage material. So women assume that, oh, if I have a low body count, then therefore I'll be marriage material, which is obviously not true all the time because we see so many examples of women who have low body counts and they're not married. I actually know women who are virgins who are not married, and they're actually good people because you could be a virgin and be a horrible person, right? So, because virginity doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person. It just means you never had intercourse. And then even virginity is very controversial because people have different views of what they think virginity is. But for me, and this conversation, when I say virginity, I mean you've never had any sexual intercourse, you never had any oral sex, never received or gave it, you never done anything sexual. That's what I consider to be a virgin. So, yeah, like I said, I know people who actually are virgins and they're not married, right? And I know people who are not virgins who are married. So just because you are a virgin or you have a quote unquote low body count does not mean that men are going to marry you. Because obviously we see examples of women who are not getting married, even though they are virgins or they have a low body count. And even if a man marries you, what is going to be the quality of the marriage? Just because he marries you, and you have a low body count, doesn't mean he's going to respect you, doesn't mean he's going to cherish you, doesn't mean he's going to actually treat you with kindness and consideration. Because once again, like I said, there are so many examples of women going into marriages where they had a low body count or where they were even virgins and they were treated horribly. They were cheated on, they were abused. Some have even lost their lives. So just because you have a low body count does not mean that a man is going to automatically marry you. And even if he does, what is the reason why he's marrying you? Is he marrying you because he genuinely loves you and he has good morals, values, and principles, and you and him are aligned? Or is he marrying you because he sees a benefit in marrying you? A lot of men, they choose women for what they can benefit from you. And sometimes even the benefit is just the social image of it. Oh, I'm marrying a virgin. I'm marrying a woman who's a low body count. No man can really say he's had her. Only 1, 2 men can say they've had her. So it's like an ego boost, and they can brag about that. And especially if a woman is beautiful on top of that too, don't let her be beautiful and have a low body count. He thinks that, oh, I'm gonna use this now to, like I said, for his image. And other men, oh, you're so lucky. You got a rare one. You got a gem. You know how men talk. You got a gem. You got a rare one. All of this type of stuff. And meanwhile, behind closed doors, he may not even be treating her well, right? So that's why it's kind of interesting to me when people are shocked when they hear these stories about, oh, high school sweethearts, they got married. You come to find out there's all type of abuse and cheating on. I'm like, just because people got married, and the statistics actually show that the more young you marry, the more likely you are to have a divorce too. So that's another thing too, that some of these guys try to push getting a younger woman because she may be more likely to be a virgin or have a low body count, which is not always true, because just because she's 19 doesn't mean she has a low body count. But let's just say, for argument's sake, she does have a lower body count because she's younger. Yeah, but statistics show that she's less likely to stay married with that man because you're still young, you're still developing, right? When people tend to marry closer to 30 or so forth, they tend to stay together longer, especially when they've done the internal work. Their finances are together, right? They're healthier because they've done the internal work, they've matured, and they're taking care of themselves. So this whole thing of trying to get younger women because they have a lower body count, when statistics show they're less likely to actually stay married, not because they're horrible women, but because they're not developed fully yet. They're 19, 20 years old. Their brain is still fully developing. But a lot of men want to go after them because they're easier to control on average, not always, but on average, and maybe easier to manipulate. Maybe easier to get her to bond and be attached to him, to where now she doesn't want to leave because she has much more of an attachment to him because that's the first guy she's been with, or the second guy she's been with. And sometimes men prey on that. So as a younger woman, you have to be very careful of that. If me personally, I wouldn't even tell a guy that you're a virgin or you have a low body count. I would keep that to myself. But a lot of women want to brag about it because they think that makes them better. And they actually put themselves sometimes in harm's way, and you actually attract predators that way, because you would want a man to get to know you for who you really are and make sure you and him, your values and morals and principles align, not because you have a low body count. Now, if that's something that's a part of his morals and values and he also has a low body count, or he's also a virgin, and you both married together, that's different. But that's not what a lot of these guys are doing. They don't have a low body count. They don't really believe in purity and being faithful and having morals, values, and principles. They don't live by that. They just want a woman with a low body count so that they can brag and so that they can say that they have a woman that hasn't been touched. It's really about ownership. It's really about ego. It's not because they want somebody whose morals and values are aligned to them, because they don't even live that way themselves. So that's why I say, like, you make yourself a target for predators when you go out there bragging, because you really don't know what you're attracting. And most of the time, you're not going to attract a man with good intentions. So it's really not a good idea. But because women always want to compete with each other, they brag about how they got this and they got that, or they don't have this, they don't have that, because they want to position themselves as if they're better than the next woman. And then you just making yourself a target at the end of the day. You're not attracting a good man by bragging, saying that you got more money than another woman or you're prettier than another woman. That's not attracting a good man by doing that. But you think that you are putting yourself on a pedestal when in reality you could be attracting predators. So you have to be very careful. That's why we really shouldn't be competing with each other. That's really just a design of men. They want us to compete with each other because then it takes the focus off of them and their intentions and what they're doing. But if women were to come together and actually support one another, I'm not saying you have to be friends with all women. No, all women are not aligned. But I'm saying as a collective, if women are not trying to tear each other down and say, I'm better than you, you're better than me, blah, 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 and be in their own lanes and support whoever is aligned with you, then a lot of this stuff would be minimized, the issues that women have with men, because women would be telling other women about the truth about men. Women would be supporting women when they need help and assistance if they're in an unhealthy relationship with a man. There will be a lot more that women can benefit from because they have each other and we're supporting each other. But if we're constantly tearing down each other or comparing and saying, I'm better than you because of this, I'm better than you because of that, then we're not going to really be able to ascend because we're constantly tearing each other down. And that's what a lot of men want. I've actually seen men actually smiling and getting excited when they see women fighting, physically fighting. That's what some men want. You know, sometimes they even see it as entertainment. And then they see it as, oh, that boosts their ego too. Because, oh, look at all these women fighting over me. Look at them thinking that they're better than this woman because she prettier than her, or because she got a low body count, or because she's married and she's not. That's another thing. Oh, I'm married and you're not. I have kids and you don't. It's always something that women are competing over. And the men are just sitting back looking at it like they think it's hilarious because you have a husband, you're not getting treated better than a woman who doesn't have a husband, and vice versa. Because a lot of women are going through it, going through things when it comes to men, right? So, I think at the end of the day, what are your real intentions for why you're making the decisions that you're making? Is it because that's really your morals, values, and principles, or is it because you want to position yourself as if you're better than the next woman? It's the same thing with women who brag about being married. Okay, if you're married and you're happily married, there's nothing wrong with saying that you're happily married. But most of the time, when women are happily married, they're not constantly bragging about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's rare that you see that. So when people have to constantly brag about something, it says a lot about what's going on inside of them. And a lot of times when you dig deeper and you see what's going on in their lives, most of the time they're not having good results. Because if they really were having good results, they wouldn't feel the need to be bragging. A lot of times people don't even want people to be really in their business when they have a lot of good stuff going on, because they know how other women are and how a lot of times they may want to sabotage the good things that you have going on, especially when it comes to a man. So another I'm gonna start wrapping this up because I don't want this video to be too long. But yes, when it comes to having a low body count, a lot of women use it as a measure against other women to claim that they are better than them. Another thing is they think it equals high standards, and it says that they're not easy. Just because a woman has a low body count does not mean that she has high standards. I've seen so many examples of women staying in marriages for 20, 30 years. And don't get me wrong, I can imagine that it's not easy to leave, because some of us are not even married and we've had a hard time leaving relationships. So obviously it's even harder when you are married to somebody and you have children and you have money tied up, right? So I will never make it seem like, oh, it's a simple 1, 2, 3 thing. Because for one, I've never been in it. And two, I have enough common sense and discernment to know that it's not easy walking away from a relationship for most women, especially when you're married and you have a lot of things tied up. So I'm not saying that if a woman just doesn't just up and leave, and that means that she doesn't have high standards. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there's a lot of times you'll see women putting up with all types of stuff. And they will brag about how, they've only been with one man, they've been married for 20 years, how they're better than the other woman over there because she's had a high body count and she's never been married. Meanwhile, then she finally comes out after she's been divorced and talks about all the horror that she went through in her marriage and how she'll never get married again. And it's like, wait a minute. So you were in your marriage this whole time, putting up a facade as if you were in this healthy marriage. You were bragging about how you're better than other women and, looking down at other women. And then now that you're out of it, now you want sympathy. And now you're talking about how horrible you were treated in the marriage. And this is why women are starting to take it less and less seriously when they see women posting about their marriage, because they're like, is that really real? Because so many women will put up a facade because they're also trying to maintain a social image, and they'll make it seem like they're in these healthy relationships. The whole time they're getting abused, cheated on, all type of stuff, and they won't say anything about it because they're in the marriage. And then when they get a divorce, then now it's, oh, men are horrible. This is how I was treated. Meanwhile, you were just saying that you were better than other women because you were married and they're not, and they ran through. So this is the thing I'm saying. And we see it all the time. Women are coming out saying that, oh, I'm now not married, or I'm going through a divorce, and this is the horrible things that I was going through. And then women are shocked. I'm like, why be shocked? Women are a lot of times are not going to tell the truth about what they're really going through in their relationship. They're going to try to save face and uphold a certain image. And I'm not saying that they should share it either. It might also be a safety thing. I've talked about that on here. You have to be careful with what you expose. And I plan to do more videos on that. So I don't think that women should expose bad things about their husband while they're still married. I don't think that's a good idea. But I'm just saying, why tear down other women who are not married, or maybe who are in marriages that you don't really think are as good as yours, or whatever the case might be, but you know you're in an unhealthy marriage, and the whole time you just keep, flexing on other women, and then just to come out and say, oh, you've been abused, like but this is what happens. So it just goes to show that just because a woman married her high school sweetheart, or she had a low body count and she's with a man, does not mean that she's not putting up with all types of crazy stuff, because she doesn't have a certain level of self-love, and self-respect, right? A low body count does not equal self-respect and high standards. It just means that you haven't had sex with a large amount of men. That's all it means. It really doesn't mean anything else. Just like a man who has a low body count doesn't mean he respects women. No, it just means that he's only had access to a small amount of women. It doesn't mean he's a good person. We see some of these men who have never had sex and they're very upset about that. And some of them say some horrible, really disgusting things about women, right? So just because a man has never had sex, or he only has been with 2, 3 women, doesn't mean he's a good person. The amount of you having only been with a small amount of people does not. The only way I feel like it gives a view of your character is if it's aligned with your morals and values. If you have morals and values that say that you need to wait till marriage, and you are waiting until marriage and you're standing on that, then that says a lot about your character. That means that you really stand on business when it comes to what you believe in. But that's not the reason why some of these women are having low body counts. That's what I'm saying. They're having it because they want to be able to brag. Because the people that I personally know who are virgins or a low body count, and they're actually not intimate with anybody because it's their religion, they're not bragging about it. They're just living it, because there's nothing to brag about, because they're not doing it to brag. They're doing it because it is aligned with their morals and values and principles. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of times when you hear people bragging about stuff, it's really not aligned with morals and values and principles. It's really just a flex on other people. It's really just because they want validation and attention from other people. It really has nothing to do with, because then when you see how they live their lives, it's like, wait a minute, how did you say you have high standards, but then you put up with XYZ, XYZ, XYZ? Meanwhile, a woman over here who doesn't have low body count, she would never put up with that. So that just goes to show that it's not aligned with you having high standards. You know what I mean? So I feel like that only applies if a woman has certain morals, values, and principles, and having a low body count, being a virgin, all that aligns with that, and she actually stands on that because that's what she believes in. But if that's not the case, then it is not an indicator of anything that has anything to do with her morals and values, because anybody can have a low body count. It doesn't mean that they have high standards. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they're a good person. It doesn't mean that they're going to treat anybody well. It doesn't mean that they're going to be treated well. It doesn't mean that they're going to be respected, or they're going to respect people. It doesn't mean that. Their morals, values, and principles and their character is going to determine that, not their body count. The only time that applies is if, like I said, if it's aligned with their morals, values, and principles. And the last thing I have here is that they think it equals self-love and self-respect. So I kind of already said that. So some women think that because they have a low body count, that it means that they respect themselves. But once again, they will put up with all types of stuff, and it indicates that they do not respect themselves and they do not love themselves. They will stay in a marriage for 30 years where they've been treated horrible the entire time. I've seen women marry men who have talked to them in ways that I have never had a guy talk to me like that. It makes you kind of like, you know how they say it shivers my timbers. It makes you clutch your pearls. Like, how does a man, like, I know that men talk to women crazy sometimes, but thankfully I've never had a man talk to me in some of the ways I've seen some women's own husbands talk to them. And these women, that's the only man that they've ever been with. And it's like, wait a minute, isn't he supposed to? That's what men say, right? They said they respect you and they love you if you are not ran through and you don't have a high body count and you haven't been outside and whatever. And high body count is relative, right? Some men say it's 10, some men say it's 5, some men say it's 20, some men say it's what, right? Every man has his own little thing that he sets up. I don't know, because when I asked one time on YouTube, the guy was saying, he laughed and was like, "We don't want no virgin," haha. Because I was like, because I told him, I said, there's women out here who are virgins who are not getting married, and he laughed and said they don't want no virgins, which I found interesting because I thought they wanted women who are quote unquote pure. So I said, okay, well, what's the body count number? He couldn't give me a number. So this is why I can't take a lot of them seriously, because like I said, it's really not about morals and values to them. It's really just about ownership and wanting to have a certain image and be able to say, I have a woman on my arm who hasn't been touched before, or she's only been touched by one or two dudes. It's really just to flex on other dudes and to get respect from other guys to say, yeah, good job, bro. You're lucky. You got one of the rare gems. It's really not about love and care and concern and valid and true love and true care and concern. It's really just about validation from other men. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's basically all I have to say. If you're going to, I think that women should preserve themselves. I think that women should be selective with their bodies. I'm always going to say that. I've already said that already. I'm never going to really advocate for women to be out here and just be reckless. I'm never going to advocate for that. At least as far as I know, by God's grace, I would never advocate that, because there's no benefit. Maybe there's some pleasure benefit, I guess. I mean, women get to experience different men, but outside of that, there's really no, I don't think that there's so many consequences that overshadow the pleasure that you get from that, that I just don't encourage. And if a woman has already done that, I'm not gonna speak ill of her. Just like I'm not gonna speak ill of a woman who's a virgin. I'm not gonna speak ill of that. But I'm not gonna support and say, oh yeah, go out there and just be wild and free because be young and turn and all that. No, there's ways to enjoy your youth and have fun without allowing yourself to be depleted by men, because that's really what it is too. Like men are, they pull from you. So you have to preserve your life force. You have to preserve yourself as a woman. It's not about, oh, so men can respect me. It's not about, oh, so men can marry me, so that men can put me on a pedestal. Because like I said, we have so many examples that show that just because you have a low body count or you're a virgin does not mean that men are going to respect you. You should be doing it because you want to preserve yourself. You want to, you see the value of yourself, and you want to preserve yourself for your goals, aspirations, and things that you're called to do in your life. You want to preserve your youth as long as you can, not so that men can respect your youth, no, so that you can have your own youth. Because as women, when we're younger, we have like a airiness to us and a glowy eyes to us. Not always, because some people have had really rough childhoods. But even then, sometimes we still have like these starry eyes and, just a certain air about us when we're younger. And sometimes when we get older, we start to lose that. And I think that's why men tend to like younger women, not just because sometimes they want to control and mold them, but because they like the airiness. They like the you still have that part of you that still kind of sees the good in things, and you starry eye. You know what I mean? Like it's just a certain essence. And sometimes women, we can lose that as we get older because we go through experiences of life. And sometimes when you've been with multiple men like that and they're pulling from you, that can pull from that airiness and that playfulness, and you can become hardened. And I think that's why some men tend to want to go for younger women. So you want to preserve that for yourself, not for a man to respect you, but preserve that for yourself so that you can still have a airiness and lightness to you. You won't feel depleted and angry and bitter because you gave so much of yourself and your time and energy and life force to men who didn't respect you. Even if you did get stuff out of it, but at what cost? You know what I mean? So I think you just need to preserve yourself, because that's what's important as a woman. We need to maintain that playfulness about us, and that inner girl, your inner child. You need to preserve that, so that as you get older, when you're in your 30s and 40s, you can still have a playfulness about you. You're not bitter, but you're also aware of men and their nature. You're aware of the games that men play. You're aware of life and finances, and being successful in life as a woman and growing into your womanhood. You still learn to set boundaries, and you learn to be secure within yourself while still having that airiness and playfulness about you. You know what I mean? You're not like so hardened. And I think that that's why it's important to preserve yourself, not so that men can respect you and love you and marry you. Because like I said at the beginning and throughout, that does not mean that they're going to do that. And so many women have been disappointed because they like, I preserved myself and look what happened to me. Look at how he treated me. Like I said, I've seen women who have been only with their high school sweethearts and they've been screwed over by men. And then what does society say? Well, that's her fault. She should have chose better. Well, she did the right thing. She waited until marriage. She chose her high school sweetheart who she thought loved her. That's what she did. She didn't choose some, some thug off the street. She was some guy that she met in high school or she met in college, and he seemed like he really cared about her. And then he screwed her over at the end of the day and discarded her like she was nothing, even though she preserved herself and she invested decades of her life to support him and his dreams and goals and aspirations. Now she feels like she has to literally start over again. And then divorce and everything is so expensive. So many times women end up in poverty. It messes them up financially as well. Like, you know what I mean? So it really can put women in a horrible space. This is why some women, they snap. This is why sometimes they become bitter. And then people say, oh, she's just crazy and whatever. But they never hear what women had to go through all those years and what they had to endure at the hands of this man. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that there's not a learning lesson in that. There's always a learning lesson. But I'm saying, like, there's no accountability for the man. It's all the woman's fault. She should have just chose better. That's her fault. She should have just did the right thing. Even though she did what society said to do, she preserved herself and she married a guy who she thought really liked her. She didn't just meet some guy off the street from the club, or, you know what I mean? Some guy where it was obvious that he wouldn't really respect her. No, she did what they said. She even met the guy in the church. Like, she did what society said to do. She preserved herself. She wasn't, quote unquote, ran through. And look what happened, right? So this is why you shouldn't do it for men. You should do it because it's your morals, values, and principles. Or you should do it because as a woman, you are preserving your life force and you want to keep yourself untainted. And that's what men say, right? They say that the more men touch you and the more men that enter you, the more you become tainted, the more you become damaged goods. That's what they're saying. They're telling you about themselves. So if that's the case, then don't lay with a bunch of them, because you don't want to become tainted. You want to preserve yourself so that you can be, as closer to your innocence as you can, not so that men can respect you, but so that you can, like I said, remain airy and remain light and not have all this burden and stuff that's on you now. You also minimize your chances of getting pregnant, and then now you're stuck with a man for the rest of your life who you weren't designed to be stuck with. Now you're not married to some man who you thought was going to respect you, but because you were so focused on flexing and saying, oh, he loves me because I'm pure, or he loves me because I'm this and that, and then you're missing the red flags, and now you're stuck with a man for 20 years that you were never supposed to be stuck with. But when you are focusing on your goals and aspirations, and you're truly doing the inner work, and you are keeping yourself, you're being selective for the right reasons, then you can actually properly discern the actions of men and have the support of other women, because you're not competing with them. And then you will minimize your chances of getting played. But if you're walking around flexing that you are a virgin and have a low body count, and you're trying to do it for validation or to compete with other women, you're more likely to get bamboozled. And I'm not saying all women do it for that reason. Some women probably just, are happy that they're virgins. But like I said, I actually know women who are virgins who have low body counts, and they don't brag about it because their reasons is actually aligned to like their religion or their beliefs. So there's no reason to really brag because they're not competing with anybody. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what are your reasons really for why you're doing it? So make sure you're doing things for the right reasons. Make sure you're keeping your eyes open, and yeah, and that's basically all I have to say for now. So especially for the young ladies, be very careful, because like I said, if you already have this mindset, you're going to attract the wrong type of guys, and you're going to fall for the whole, oh, you're so much better than all the other women because you're a virgin. You're so much better than all the other women because, I've seen it. I've literally seen it on the internet. Guys posting, oh, you're a rare gem. Oh, you're a Proverbs 31 woman. Oh, you're a wifey. You're wifey. Meanwhile, these men are not lining up to marry you. And if they are, they're not lining up to respect you and to honor you and really cherish you. It's just, like I've said, it's just a way to gas you up and get you to let your walls down so they can have access to you. And then once they have access to you, then they don't see you as valuable anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you remember with the Cardi B thing and the Offset thing, and then he was like, oh, you're still my baby mama or something like that, he said to her, and it's supposed to be her husband. So some men, just because they get married to you, and just because y'all, and I'm not saying that their relationship is healthy, I'm just using that as an example to show that even if you get married, sometimes men still don't even value you, because for them it was just a conquering thing. I got you, I was able to have sex with you, I able to get you pregnant, now you're stuck with me, now you're going to be a baby mama forever. And that's how they see it. They see it as a conquer thing. So it's the same thing with virginity and low body count. They want to be able to conquer you and say they were the first to have you, or you've only been one other guy before them. They were using it to brag so they can flex, and other men can say, oh, you're so lucky to have a rare gem. It's not about because they really genuinely love you, because if they did, they wouldn't be treating these women poorly as well. Like I said, some of these women are being treated worse than some of the women that the men are shaming. So I'm not saying that because men are going to possibly mistreat you with a low body count, then go have a high body count anyway. That's not what I'm saying. Because people, I don't know why, but people have very extreme ways of thinking that if they hear one thing, then it automatically means something else. No, I'm not saying that because men can still disrespect you, that means that you should just go out there and just be reckless. No, I'm saying that if you're going to preserve yourself, which I think you should, then you should do it for the right reasons, not for men, not for cool points, not for applause, not for validation, because you're going to be disappointed. And there are women, like I said, who I know who are virgins and they're still not married. Imagine if you held your virginity in hopes of getting married and now you're like 50 years old and you never got married. You're going to be devastated because you're going to be like, I thought they said that if I maintain my virginity, I would get married. How am I 50 and I'm still not married? And I'm a good woman. I got myself together. Meanwhile, you're over there seeing women over there and they've had 5, 6 partners and they've been married. And you're like, well, what happened to me? Or you have a low body count and you've only been with 2 or 3 men and you're still getting dogged out by men. So, and you're confused because you're like, wait a minute, I thought that men said that if I had a low body count, they would respect me. So that's why I say you shouldn't do it for the wrong reason. And like I said, you also may attract the wrong type of dudes. And because men are not stupid, men are always observing you. And they could tell when you're insecure or when you're doing things because you want validation or because you want to compete with other women, and they will use that to their advantage. Like I said, they're going to gas you up, tell you, oh yeah, you're so much better than other women because you have you only been 1 or 2 guys. Wow, you're such a rare gem. Oh my goodness. I've even had guys do that with me with other things. Like, oh, you're a good girl because, you don't go out to the club. And I tell myself, I used to go out to the club when I was younger. I just don't do it now because my life changed. When I was in my early 20s, my life made a different trajectory. And now that I'm old, I'm like, I don't really feel the need to go back. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm better than other women. At one point, I was going to. You know what I mean? Like, but men tend to have certain perceptions of you and then they want to put you on a pedestal. It's like, sir, I'm not falling for that. Like, I see what you're trying to do. Like, that doesn't make me better than other women because I don't go to the club. You know what I mean? Oh, you're so good because you dress modest. I dress modest because that's what makes me feel comfortable. I don't dress modest so men can respect me because I already know from experience that men will still be highly disrespectful to you even when you are fully clothed. They're still creeping and lurking, and it's like, wait a minute, sir, why are you being creepy and lurking? And I'm not disrespecting you. So obviously, if you dress provocative, you attract much more of that. But just because you are modest does not mean a man is going to respect you. He's going to respect your boundaries. Because once again, we see so many cultures where women literally have to dress modest for their religion. They're required to. Some of them don't even have a choice. And the men are treating them horribly. Sometimes they're even taking their lives. So you dressing modest is not going to keep a man from harming you and mistreating you. You dressing modest should be something that goes according with your values. Okay, that makes me feel comfortable. I like covering up. Or I want to minimize the creepy guys that come on to me when I dress provocative, because that's one thing I don't like it. I don't want to attract a lot of that. So that's why I do it. Now, there was a time where I thought that being modest may make men maybe see me differently, but I definitely changed my mindset on that. I mean, on a logical level, I kind of knew that that wasn't necessarily the case, but I think emotionally, I was still kind of like attached to that idea. You know what I mean? So I'm a thinker. I'm always questioning things. So I may logically know that, okay, just because I'm doing this doesn't mean a man is going to respect me, but I may still have an attachment, emotional attachment to the ideology of it. So I may say that I know that that's not the case, but my actions may show otherwise. You know what I mean? So sometimes you really have to unpack that and really do the internal work to make sure that you question what you really believe and why you're doing the things that you're doing. And I think that, like I said, I think that it's a great thing when you preserve yourself, but make sure you're preserving yourself for the right reasons. So take care, y'all. I'm going to go because I could talk all day about this, but I don't want this video to be any longer. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys another time. Take care. Bye.